Coming up on Techzilla, the perfect DSLR for the holiday season, transcoding your digital music. Take back that URL and a big old dog pile of your viewer questions. So boil that water and steep your favorite brand of tea, because Techzilla starts now. This episode of Techzilla is made possible by GoToAssist Express. Support smarter with GoToAssist Express. The HP DV7T with Beats Audio and the smart Intel Core i5 processor. Gazelle, the fastest and easiest way to sell and recycle your gadgets. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to Techzilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or the best deli in Portland, Oregon, we got an answer for you.
And if we don't, we'll track down someone who does. And I was going to ask if anybody flying down from Portland would mind stopping by Kenny and Zook's on the way here. Turns out they mail order.
Really? You know,
Pastrami.
a lot of places like that do these days. It's pretty shocking.
Best pastrami I've had outside of New York City. Amazing.
Wow.
Hey, the crew here at Revision 3, we wanted to make a difference this holiday season, so we partnered up with Charity Water.
Yes, clean water is one of the scarcest resources in the world, and nearly 1 billion people do not have access to it. Most of us take clean water for granted. We grab a glass, put it under the faucet, and turn on the tap. Drink safely. No worries about walking to the next village to pick up the day's supply of H2O, catching a nasty disease, or poisoning your child.
Charity Water builds wells, and they donate 100% of the money they raise to build wells and bring clean water to communities in need. If the Techzilla crew can manage to raise $5,000, we can build a well and provide clean water to a village for 20 years, at least. I've donated, and we hope that you'll donate too. If everybody that watches Techzilla donates just a single dollar, we could easily build 20 or 30 wells or more.
Just $1.
Just $1.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Every show in Revision 3 is reaching out to viewers to raise money to build wells. We need your help to make a difference. Please go to revision3.com/charitywater to learn more and help bring clean water to people in need.
Thank you for your support. Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was very nice. It was nice to kind of relax and hang out with friends and eat myself sick as usual, as is the plan. Although you may have heard I ordered 2 cheesecakes off the internet.
2 cheesecakes.
And we only got through 1. I mean, they were big cheesecakes.
Juniors in Brooklyn, or?
No, you know, you're not the first person to mention that. It was another place from New York, but it was not Juniors. But I'll have to find the name because they were quite excellent.
Good to know. Hey,
Yeah.
Wall Street Journal says Black Friday spending is back to pre-recession levels. This is good for everybody that works in consumer electronics or retail. And in fascinating government news, there was a Cyber Monday surprise for 82 websites.
What?
They were seized by Immigrations and Customs Enforcement over at the Department of Homeland Security,
Wow.
who believe all 82 sites traffic in black market, counterfeit, or copyright infringing goods, including, it turns out, torrent link sites.
Yes, the highly sought after gloods.
Gloods.
Yeah, visitors to the sites got an eye full of wallpaper that read, "This domain name has been seized by ICE, Homeland Security Investigations, pursuant to a seizure warrant issued by, etc., and lots of info on the punishment for willful copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Civil forfeiture laws, no trial, no notice, don't piss on the feds.
Yeah,
Or piss them off, for that matter. Don't pee on their heads. They don't like that. They hate that, actually. You want to get in trouble with the feds? Pee on them.
You thought the TSA was trouble before you peed on a nice
Oh.
TSA officer.
I mean, I understand I have to mark your territory and all, but just try not to, don't pee on their heads.
Is the Xbox getting its own cable network? Microsoft apparently has been holding talks with TV networks and is working towards bringing a subscription-based TV to the Xbox 360, according to Reuters. The service apparently could range anywhere from the sales of individual channels alongside ESPN, which is available on Xbox Live, to bundles of channels or a full range of channels in a virtual cable operator mode.
That sounds like a little a la carte TV to me.
A la carte TV sounds good, just don't expect it to show up much before this time next year. Maybe.
Interesting. And on to some Google Earth news. Google Earth 6, now with 3D trees and stuff. Yes, Google's finally made Street View feel like it belongs in Google Earth, but the big star of the latest update is trees! Like 80 million trees, modeled in cities like San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Athens, Tokyo, and Berlin. And, according to the Google blog, some full forests in parts of Africa and Mexico. And for the serious tree fans out there, you'll be happy to find out that Google has 3D models for dozens of of species of trees. If you want to use Street View in Earth 6, you can either grab the pegman from the nav controls, zoom down, or use KML to guide people into the streets. They've also made historical imagery much easier to find. Just keep an eye out for the icon in the lower left-hand corner of the screen for a heads up.
That's pretty awesome. Like you can flip between like photos of the 30s
Yeah.
and photos today. And
I'm really excited about
available.
the trees.
The trees.
Being a tree fan.
Well, it's kind of
Way
funny
back
though.
now.
One of the big images they had was the Presidio, and I was like, oh, that's really trippy because normally you'd see
Were they-
sort of the buildings.
Were they the right kinds of trees, though? Were they the eucalyptus
I haven't
trees?
gone and individually inspected the trees.
'Cause
You
they
know,
said they only had a few different models.
in Google Earth 7, maybe they can do scalable trees and then maybe
That would be
texture
nice.
mapping the trees.
Interesting.
Will Microsoft make it easier for companies to avoid patent infringement suits? We'll know more after their 3-year legal battle with I4I wraps up in the Supreme Court. I4I was awarded $290 million after a jury in Texas decided that Microsoft had willfully violated an I4I patent in Word's XML editing functions. Microsoft's goal in the Supreme Court case is to get the standard for proving a patent invalid changed from, and I'm going to quote paidcontent.org here, a clear and convincing standard of evidence to the easier preponderance of evidence standard. The case made it to the Supreme Court in part from the support of a rather large group of corporations, including Apple, HP, Verizon, Google, and quite a few others that filed amicus briefs in support of Microsoft's case. So the general consensus is this could be the first major change in patent law in like 30 years.
Well, it's good because it needs a few changes.
Yes.
Because it is FUBAR.
Well, yeah, but the I4I folks are like, well, this is totally, you know, this is a chilling effect. This is going to make it worthless for small companies to create innovative ideas because they'll just be ripped away from big
Well,
companies
that's
with lots
true.
of lawyers.
And there was a lot, actually, if I remember correctly, directly stolen from their code or something having to do with the XML stuff, or it seemed stolen. I hope I'm remembering the case properly. But the whole patent system is really screwed up
Is
in
messy.
general. And I don't want it to side on the side of big corporations, but a lot of times there are smaller companies that go after big corporations for stupid patent reasons because they can,
Right.
and because usually they'll just pay them out to settle it and not worry about it. But, you know, for the big guys and the little guys, it can go both ways, and it can be really devastating.
And I also don't want to see I don't want to see patent law to go the way of copyright law, which is one company with giant lawyers with one. Well, I'm going to say it. You know, Mickey Mouse. Disney wanted to hold on to the rights to Mickey Mouse until hell freezes over, so they went and battled and fought and legislated and lobbied their way into getting huge extensions onto the way copyright laws. So corporations could hold copyrights that were supposed to be for individuals, and instead of things coming, basically Disney, I just want to thank you for making sure almost no books written after 1923 will probably make it into public domain in my lifetime. Thanks. It's great. By the way, look at the Constitution. Not the way the founders set it up.
Mouse holes.
Why? Let's fire up the first question.
Yes.
Greg
Yes.
writes in, hello, Veronica and Patrick. I use Skype to communicate with family all over the world. Everything works just fine, but I want to be able to sit on my comfy sofa and see my beloved ones on a big TV screen, not a 15-inch laptop. I'm a big fan of dedicated interfaces like the one on Apple TV or Windows Media Center that I can control via my Logitech Harmony remote, not a mouse. Yes, you and I both. The problem is that I simply cannot find a way to run Skype with a native TV UI feel. The closest I could get was hacking my Apple TV to use a USB camera running OS X Skype with an Apple script backend that does the answer call and go to full screen assigned to a button on my remote. This is far from being comfy or native feel.
But it is pretty clever.
Yes, it is very
That
clever.
is pretty damn clever.
Is there any way to do this besides switching to a Panasonic TV with Skype built in? I have a Wii, an old Apple TV, a Mac Mini with OS X and Windows 7, or I could buy a dedicated new but not so expensive set-top box. Thanks, love your show, Greg. Greg, you're doomed.
You're doomed, guy, you're doomed. Well, okay, not completely.
Yeah.
If you want Skype on your HD TV and you want a remote control friendly, mouse-free friendly version, you could also buy a Samsung television. It's not just running on Panasonic's HD TVs. Beyond that, though, the list gets pretty seriously short. Greg says he's tried many things like Windows 7 Media Center with Skype plugin, no video, Equinox Media Central, that tiny little video window there, ATV 1.0 Skype plugin, no video. From reading some developer threads on the Skype community forum, it appears that the Skype API doesn't give you any control over the size of the Skype window. That would make it kind of hard to write a plugin for Windows Media Center or Boxy or, well, anything for that matter.
Yeah, and
unfortunately.
that apparently is the reason why you don't have lots and lots of Skype. Basically, why Skype hasn't been adapted to HDTVs. That and Skype's not particularly 720p friendly. But if you can convince your whole family to move from Skype to Logitech's VidHD, and you're willing to pony up $300 for a Logitech Review, their Google TV box, you'll have decent video conferencing control from your couch, at least if you don't mind that keyboard. Actually, the Logitech Harmony can work with the Google Review, or the Logitech Review Google TV box. Nice thing, your relatives can use any netcam they own. VidHD isn't just for Logitech's webcams. And if they have a 720p camera and a megabit upload-download speed, you'll be able to do 720p video calls with them, which will look much better on your HD TV. Maybe somebody will eventually write something for the Boxy Box, the Popcorn Hour boxes. They both have USB ports and basic, Linuxy kind of kernel action going on there. You might also consider waiting for Apple's announcements in January. Lots of conjecture this week that FaceTime, the video conferencing tool on the iPhone 4, will show up on the next generation iPad and in iTunes on both Windows and Mac. And since there's a micro USB port on the back of the Apple TV, it's not too hard of a stretch to suggest that maybe round 2 of the iSight camera is coming.
Really?
I would like that. Well, an Apple TV box with, a camera that sits on top of the HDTV to do FaceTime style conferencing with the family.
I would be surprised if they did.
I would
standalone iSight camera.
Well, I didn't say standalone. It's the one that would plug into the Apple TV.
But that's still standalone. It's a standalone device.
No, they can manage to lock it down so it won't work with anything but the Apple TV.
That's probably true.
That's my Apple.
Got a pain-free way to bring Skype to Greg's living room? Email us, texilla@revision3.com, and we'll let them know.
Finding the perfect digital camera for the holidays, converting music files the right way, and so much more coming up right after this brief message from one of our beloved sponsors.
And that would be Go to Assist Express. Trying to help someone through a technical issue over the phone is a nightmare, and the last thing you want to do is waste time driving to fix the problem in person. I have the perfect solution for you. Go to Assist Express. It's the easiest and most affordable way to remotely view and control another computer. You can see and solve the problem without being there in person, and you'll amaze your customers by solving problems on the spot. You can even provide service when customers are away from their computers. Texilla viewers can try Go to Assist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit gotoassist.com/Texilla. That's gotoassist.com/Texilla for a free trial.
The following segment is brought to you by the HP DV7T with Beats Audio, powered by the smart Intel Core i5 processor. Yes, Dr. Dre in the form of Beats Audio has fine-tuned this HP notebook and quite a few notebooks from HP, from netbooks to a full-on Core i7 desktop replacement, for amazing audio with custom processing you can turn on and off at the click of an F key. Ms. Belmont, let us talk audio conversion.
Let us.
We actually get a lot of questions about this because people they procure audio in various formats, they create audio in various formats, they rip perfectly legal their CD collection, and then they go from an iPod to a Zune, or a Zune to an iPod, or they get an Android phone, and they don't like the old audio format.
Yeah, well, the concept is simple enough. You take a song, say that's encoded in AAC, and transcode it to another format, like MP3, for example. And you need to do that if you have a device that can accept a limited selection of file types, like a digital music player or a set-top box. But if you want to maintain the quality of music, there are some things that you need to keep in mind. First, garbage in, garbage out.
The more times you convert from, because basically, right, it's the same information, but especially with lossless conversion, the more times you convert it, the more information gets garbled. Format transcoding can lead to a loss of audio quality, so you want to avoid doing it multiple times. Before you do anything, identify the devices you need to encode for before you start ripping your music. Can you get by with just one format like MP3, or do you need a high-quality lossless format on one device, like, say, FLAC for your cool guy Slim P3 player, but also need a smaller, more compressed format for your cell phones or other devices?
Yeah, you'll hear us talking on this show a lot about using the most high-quality audio source in order to have the best listening experience, really on any set of headphones. It doesn't matter what you're using. This is where you want to start. The highest quality sound files you can, but where do you get audio like that from? Well, typically, the source. Where is this so-called source? Typically, most people will be either downloading music files or ripping them from an audio source like a CD or a record if you want to get really fancy. Most audio players today have an option for ripping, and they'll give you some choices in codec and bitrate. iTunes, for example, will let you import a variety of options. You can convert to MP3, WAV, Apple lossless, AAC, or AIFF. Ideally, if you rip a CD, we recommend a lossless codec like AAC lossless, WAV, or lossless Windows Media Audio. This will benefit you if you want to convert down to a lossy format like MP3 later down the line for, compatibility issues. In iTunes, when you convert to MP3, which will work across the board on audio devices, change the automatic bitrate setting to at least 256 kilobits per second, which can be found under the custom dropdown under the import settings. It's similar for the Zune software, though you'll have the options for WMA, WMA lossless, and MP3. You know, you want to do either 192 or 256 kilobit MP3s. Most people can't hear the difference between 192 and 256. I usually say if file size isn't a problem, if you have the ability to store larger files, and if you have a feeling you're going to be converting later down the line, just go with 256 or even higher if you can. Since they do degrade over time, you want to start out with the best possible you can get.
That's the problem with lossless files, is they're big files. They take up a lot of space.
Right.
So, you know, 256K, I can fit like 15 albums on my iPhone. Lossless, I can fit like, you know, 3 albums on my iPhone. Big space different. You know, the other thing is like lossless versus lossy. All the compressors we've been talking about, the lossless ones mean they have every single, you know, 0 and 1 that was on the CD. They compress it so it takes up less space, but they have records of all those zeros and ones. When you start talking about lossy compression, like, you know, 192 MP3, they start sort of saying, we can let go of that information. We'll just sort of smooth these zeros. This will become a 1, and it'll represent. You lose information from the music. If you need to convert or rip a ton of files and you want the option of using many different file types, including lossless formats, do yourself a favor, check out one of our favorite programs, Dbpoweramp. We've talked about it a ton on the show. It's really easy to convert. You just select the files in a folder and then tell the app which format you want them to be converted into. Dbpoweramp isn't free. There is a 21-day free full-function trial, though, but for $38, it gets the job done like nothing else. It is an amazing tool for dealing with lots and lots of audio. It's what I used in the Rip Monster 3000, don't you know?
Yeah, I pretty much say if you're going to be doing a lot of archiving of like records and that kind of thing, go with the most lossless format possible. If it's going to take up a lot of space, but it'll be good for the long run. If you're encoding stuff just to listen to on the go and you're not doing like some kind of pristine listening environment, go with 192 or 256 just to save on space a little bit, but still have that quality.
Or do both, because storage is cheap these days.
Yeah, Colleen, you know, remember Colleen, our good friend? She was saying that she found a 1.5 terabyte external hard drive for $60 this weekend. And I don't even know if that was a Black Friday sale. I think it was just that much money now.
2 terabyte drives are closing in on $100. Terabyte drives are under $100. Remember what Veronica told you. Use the best quality master source you can get a hold of, whether that's some cool guy lossless source on the internet, or more likely the original CD or record. And remember that multiple transcodes. The more times you convert file formats, the more detail you lose. Don't use an MP3 you made from a WAV file to make a WMA file. Use the original file if you can. If you don't have it, buy it. Do yourself a favor. You'll get better music and you'll hear all of it. It's nice to hear all the music.
All that delicious music.
Delicious music.
Well, while we're on the subject of digital music, Kyle sent us in this question. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but every single song in my iTunes library has been duplicated twice. So is that like quadruplicated? As I have over 50, quadrupled, thank you. As I have over 50 gigabytes of music before the duplicates, deleting the duplicates by hand would be a little labor intensive. Is there a preferably free application that could automatically delete the duplicate files? The duplicates are exactly the same, but are appended with a 2 or a 3, like song title 2, song title 3. Kyle in Brookings, South Dakota.
Yeah,
I have learned a lot about state abbreviations doing this show, by the way.
Really?
You don't have to think about them a lot until you have to read them just off the top of your head. Anyway, so how did that even happen, man? How did that happen?
I actually did something like that once.
Really?
Half my hard drive, I was trying to figure out why my hard drive was full, and I realized in moving a folder around, I'd managed to move it back to the same place, and I created an extra 70 gigabytes of data.
Yeah, well...
It happens. It happens.
Other than the obvious quadruple files he's got on his iTunes library right now, there's another problem, and that's that iTunes probably isn't recognizing those as duplicates because they are named differently.
So they're all showing up in your iTunes menu.
Because as we said a million times, you can use the find duplicates or display duplicates function in iTunes, and that'll actually bring them up, but then you do have to go one by one and delete them. But at least you can see where they are. Luckily, though, there's an Adobe Air app out there called Tidy Songs. It'll do exactly what you're looking for, even with tracks that are named differently. You can tell it to either keep the longer file or the file with the higher bit rate in case one's, higher quality. When it finds dupes, it'll also give you the option of removing it from iTunes and sticking it in a separate folder on your desktop so you can look at them later. Or it adds a duplicate comment to the actual file itself. so that you can see it in the little comments section of the track.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can even then simulate the search before running the real cleanup so you can see which tracks it locates. It's free to download and to use for one cleanup, and after that it's $39. That's $10 more than TuneUp Media, which I've also used, but I think the experience of using Tidy Songs is a lot better than TuneUp Media personally. I had a lot of trouble trying to actually get TuneUp Media off my computer after I installed it, and it made me really angry. It works really well once you have it installed, but once you're done using it and you want to get rid of it, it's a little more of a pain in the butt.
Don't erase me, Veronica.
I know, it's like, I will help you, all these things you need. But Tidy has a lot of other features too, like cleaning up your MP3s and finding mislabeled tracks. So it might be worth it if you already have, a pretty scattered iTunes library.
You know what they say? First use is always free.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's all you need is that first use, just to really solve all your issues, and then you can then go manually through and kind of fix things up.
Yeah,
along the way.
50 gigabytes of
But Tidy Songs, it's a nice tidy little application.
Coming up, Mr. Chang joins us to talk about the best high ISO digital SLR cameras, the best digital SLRs for the holidays. But first, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the HP DV17 with Beats Audio, powered by the smart Intel Core i5 processor. With the Intel Core i5 processor, your notebook won't blink when it comes to playing the latest game, watching an HD movie, or managing a massive music library. There's a subwoofer built in. It's optimized for studio quality sound by Dr. Dre himself. Features a brilliant HP display, a True Vision webcam for crystal clear chat, and of course the stylish brushed aluminum case. In this case, sort of a rose color. Thank you, HP and Intel, for sponsoring Techzilla and helping us bring the show to all the nice viewers out there.
Looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, Pengu Spy. Okay, so some of you out there have been complaining that we don't talk about Linux enough, so I decided to pick something this week for you Linux gamers out there. Oh yes, you exist, and your needs are clearly not being met. PenguSpy.com, which I discovered while browsing Lifehacker, is a database of games for Linux. The creator of the site, Kostas Mavropalias, wanted to contribute something to the Linux ecosystem, so he started collecting the best Linux games out there. You can search the database by category, pick if you want free or licensed games, and then rate and review them once you've tested it out. There's a good number of games on the site, but if you want a good place to start, check out the titles with the Pengu Choice badge on them. So get your Linux gaming on with Pengu Spy today. We got this great question from Bam, who writes, I love photography and I'm going to work in the US next summer. The thing is, I want to get a good DSLR camera for around $1,000. I've set my eyes on a Nikon D90 and was wondering if Mr. Chang could give me some suggestions for a good camera with as little noise as possible when shooting at high ISO speeds. Help a fella geek in distress. Bam. Oh hey, it's you.
Bam.
You're here now.
Yes, I am.
I'm sure he never gets that joke.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
Yeah. So what do you say?
So, in the affordable realm of DSLRs, Nikon's D90 is actually a really good pick. It does have really good high ISO quality. And for people who aren't familiar with what ISO is essentially the sensitivity setting for the sensor on the digital camera. The higher you make it, the more sensitive it is, especially in low light. The trade-off is that you introduce more noise into the image. So what you end up is something really grainy and speckled with little white dots and maybe some kind of weird artifacting. Now, for something that's a little cheaper, say sub 1,000, which Bam was looking at, D90 is still pretty good. But if you want super bargain, I recommend looking at the Pentax KX digital SLR. It has one of the best high ISO performance in a camera that's around $500. So you can actually pick up one of these cameras, body for under $500. For a little bit more with the kit lens, you're looking about $550 or so.
That's not too bad.
It's not too bad. And B&H actually has a really good deal right now. They have that camera along with two lenses, the 1855 millimeter and the 50 to 200 millimeter kit lens for $586. Again, not too bad, especially since you get two lenses in the deal. That is with the black version. If you do decide to go with one of the more cosmetically attractive colored versions, you're going to pay a little bit more.
That's annoying.
People like it. People like having cameras that aren't just black.
It's always in style.
Goes with anything you wear.
Exactly.
All right, so finally, I recommend you invest in a tripod and a set of prime lenses. A tripod is invaluable in shooting in low light. You put the camera on the tripod and you don't introduce any user
movement,
induced
wiggling.
motion.
Yeah, that just makes it even more blurry.
Exactly. And, you know, it's always nice to have because if you can set on a timer and run in front of it and take a photo of yourself. Now, the prime lenses are also a benefit because they often include lenses that are a lot faster and a lot cheaper for their given speed or lens speed. Now, what makes a prime lens so much better than a zoom lens is one, it's a fixed focal length. You can't zoom from like a close distance to a far distance. You have to zoom with your feet. But because there's less glass in between the front of the lens and the camera sensor, the light actually moves a little quicker, allowing you to shoot in lower light. So you're looking somewhere around maybe an aperture of 2 or less, 2, 1.8, and if you really want to spend the money, you could probably get it down to 1.4.
So any last final tips?
Yes, I recommend you actually practice a lot with the camera in low light. So get a feel for it, understand what the limitations are, because until you understand what the limitations are, you might just kind of, well, it's low light, but it's a great lens, great camera, I can just go shoot. Doesn't work that way. You want to be able to understand what you can and cannot get away with. If you're shooting something like a vase in a low light room, it'll work fine. If you're trying to shoot a bunch of kids running around in the dark, no, it doesn't work. It's still gonna be blurry.
And what camera do you use?
I use a Canon Rebel T1i.
Ooh.
But I do have a set of 2 prime lenses, a zoom lens, another zoom lens, and a longer zoom lens.
I have to say, for point and shoot cameras, my S90 takes really nice low light pictures. I've had a lot of success taking low light pictures with that camera. You don't have to worry, you don't have to fuss with an extra lens or anything either.
Yeah, it's they're really good. They're really where SLRs really shine is the ability to shoot fast motion, but motion in low light, as well as actually controlling the various settings that you need. Plus, the advantage of swapping lenses cannot be overlooked.
That's true. Well, thank you very much for joining us here behind the table today. And still to come, we've got more viewer questions, but first, it's time to thank one of our sponsors, Gazelle. Have a bunch of tech gear and gadgets that you don't use anymore, but you're not sure what to do with them? Try Gazelle. Gazelle accepts more than 300,000 products from over 20 different electronics categories. Shipping is free on all items of value, and in most cases, they'll even send you a box to ship with. Also, for you green folks out there, Gazelle makes all their recycling partners adhere to some strict policies. No exports, no landfill policies, and tons of data security standards. Gazelle is a great way to get cash to upgrade to the latest iPhone or Android phone. Dan emailed his question, writing, I have something I need some technical input on, and since Veronica is very familiar with the PS3, I thought I'd ask here. I seem to have the same problem with every multiplayer shooter I've ever played on with the PS3, usually first-person shooters. I can hit my opponents repeatedly, but most of the time the hits don't seem to register and they don't go down. However, they can turn and pop me with just 2 or 3 and sometimes 1 shot, and I'm quickly dead. I know I'm not a great first-person shooter player, but I can't be that bad. I can actually see my shots hit the player I'm shooting. Is this something that's inherent in all online games and many people experience it also, or is there something wrong on my end? My PS3 is plugged directly into my router with a Cat5 cable, so I'm avoiding the wireless. My ISP is AT&T 6 megabit DSL, which is about the best I can get where I live, not many alternatives. Is there some kind of extra latency I may be experiencing that I can try to fix? Please help, Dan in Tell City, Indiana. So there could be a lot of things going on here.
Well,
one, you could suck. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, okay, that actually, you know, sometimes you hop into a game and you're thinking like, it's a first-person shooter. I've been playing them since I was 12, and then you're just like frag bait.
Well,
you know,
he's having this issue on a lot of multiplayer games, but you didn't mention if you're seeing it in single-player mode, which is something I would have liked to have known if in the campaigns you were having that same kind of trouble. What it sounds like to me is some kind of ping issue or latency issue going on.
So you can try to see if the servers are ranked by their ping time. You know, instead of doing like, you know, sometimes there's like geographic searches. Do they still do those?
Oh,
Most
no,
of the time,
you'd be
though,
shocked. They'll put you geographically. So they lump your servers in based on where you are in the country. So that's why typically you often play with people in a similar area. They try to do that just to knock down on the ping times.
Yeah, but if they offer you the opportunity, if you can find out like you can either try to ping the server location, see if you can get a ping time for that, or B, if the servers are ranked by ping time, take the one with the shortest ping time.
Well, I don't know if you can do that on PS3.
Ooh.
He's on console, so
Can
I don't
you
think
tell
he
I've
can
spent
select.
a lot of time playing computer games on computers?
But what you can do is that he can try to do a QoS, quality of servicing, with his router,
That's true.
and try to make all the network go to the PS3 when he's
Forget about the
playing.
VoIP, forget about the BitTorrents, forget about mom doing homework.
Yeah.
Give all the bandwidth first choice to the PS3s and basically assign it a static IP address and make that particular device the most important one.
So just look up instructions for getting to your quality of service settings on your particular router, and then you want to look at the PS3 ports. The TCP would be 80, 443, and 5223, and those they only let you pick 3, I think, for the port. So you might want to just use the first 3 there. For UDP, it's 3478 and 3479. So make sure that those ports are wide open and that all the traffic is pretty much going through there, so you have the most optimized router settings for your PS3, and see if that helps. If not, I don't really know what to tell them, because I'm assuming you might be kind of out in the boonies if your only options are really AT&T DSL out there. I mean, maybe not. I don't know, but that could be one of the reasons he's having those lags and the bad ping times.
You could try if you have a friend who's got some other form of fast internet connectivity, if they'll let you bring your PS3 over to their house and hook it up and see if it works better on their connection. It can be really frustrating, right? Because it's like, it's free market, you have a choice. But the truth is, most of us, if we're lucky, if we have 2 choices in terms of competitors. If DSL is your only option and the AT&T ping times are horrendous, what we might do is see whether or not there are any other DSL providers in your area and find out, how they prioritize traffic and if they can do anything to help you.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it could be anything with his TV or like the controller. If you guys have any other suggestions out there in Texel land, email us, texel@revision3.com. I've seen this situation before with people playing first-person shooters or Left 4 Dead, but that's always been on PC. I've never really experienced it too much on the console side. So yeah, very curious to know. And finally, today we have this question from Bill near Athens, Georgia. He writes, "What is the best way to buy an already taken domain name? The site I'm looking at is just a Parker site with a link to buy the website. Is this a good idea to try and buy the website this way? If so, when I contact them, should I use a different email since the one I'm using actually has my last name in it and that's the address I'm trying to get? Also, when I checked the website through GoDaddy.com, there was a link to use domain buy to get this name. Is this a better way to try and buy the domain name? Should I just wait to see if this domain expires and becomes available again? Is there a way to check and see when it's going to expire? Any idea what I should expect to pay to buy this already existing domain name? Bill near Athens, Georgia." Well, the good news here is that they obviously want to sell the domain because they do have that big fat link that brings you to a contact form where you can enter in your information and try to buy it.
And that's not always the case, because certain domains that are people, they kind of naturally type in that domain name, and they turn into link bait sites where they link you to eBay auctions or search results or other websites like Amazon where they get referral fees on stuff you purchase. So in some cases you can buy the domain, but they don't really want to sell it because they're actually generating revenue off the domain.
Well, the funny thing is, his last name, not that common. Very not common, I would say, in my general understanding as far as last names go.
Then there's a good chance that either somebody who has your last name has purchased the website and has not done anything with it, which is extraordinarily common, or also extraordinarily common, but slightly less likely in this case, that super domain buyer dude or dudette who owns 100,000 domains and they broker domains and sell domains, and there's this huge sort of, people don't really know about it, totally legitimate market with people who buy and sell domains, which means they are probably never going to let go of that domain.
Probably. But GoDaddy does actually offer a brokering service, though it isn't cheap. It's like $70 per domain name plus a commission that they get. But they claim that they'll find you the cheapest rate. Everyone I know who's ever purchased a domain has just gone directly through the squatter, and they've had pretty good luck with that, with bargaining as well. So find out when the domain is up for renewal, though, and you may be able to jump on it unless they have the auto-renew turned on. As far as figuring out how much that domain is worth, that would be kind of what a broker does.
Right.
They would try to figure that out first and then use that as their bargaining chip for trying to deal with the squatter or the person who already owns that domain.
Right.
Which is not always a squatter. Sometimes they legitimately own that domain.
If there's a bunch of links on the page that are related to products or goods or services or places to buy those things, that's a good sign that the domain is worth more money than you want to pay. If it's just a giant, this domain is sitting here doing nothing web page, then it's most likely that somebody with your last name bought it and has been meaning to put together a family website, and
I've seen people buy sites for as little as like $100. I've seen people pay pay upwards of
Several
thousands
$1,000s.
of dollars to get
Yeah.
the domain they want. It all depends, how popular it is and what it's currently being used for. And hey, so hopefully that works out for you. Let us know how
Good
that
luck.
all goes down. Good luck with that. Bargaining can sometimes be very
Yeah.
unpleasant, but
I also wouldn't worry too much about the whole should I create a new email account to email them so they don't know it's me with my name trying to buy it? Because
I would-
eventually they're going to pull out. You're going to pay for this by a credit card.
That's true.
And as
They're
soon as
gonna
they,
find
you know what I
out.
mean, I know some people who were like, yeah, they totally go secret squirrel and they're very sort of Bob Jones at Gmail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they create like a fake name or like Amalgamated Weasels at Amalgamated Weasel. It's not a bad idea. Chances are if you have an obscure name, the domain's not worth that much money and they'll just sell it to you.
perhaps.
Perhaps.
We'll see. And hey, before we leave, we'd like to let you all know about our new Android app. So whether you have an iPhone or an Android, you can get all the glorious Revision 3 content directly on your phone through a dedicated app instead of needing a browser.
Just search in the Android market or go to revision3.com/app for more details on that. For everybody watching, we live on your questions, so email us, techzilla@revision3.com. Tech help, product reviews, how-tos. You ask us, we'll do it. But we need those emails, so don't be shy. Send them into techzilla@revision3.com.
Even better, send us in a video question. Think of all the fun you can have and the admiration of all your friends and family when they see your mug on our show. Just keep it to 15 seconds, upload it to YouTube, and send us a link in an email with video question in the subject line. And as always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/TechZilla. Thank you guys so much for watching.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Until next time, you've been watching TechZilla.
You can either grab the peg man.
Pegman.
Oh,
That little
the
orange
Pegman.
dude is the Pegman.
Peg man. 3. I can see that on my glass eye, the reflection. It's refracting in my brain.
Veronica, it is time for us to talk audio conversion.
Any motion that you have.
You weren't supposed to acknowledge that.
I have ADD and my show isn't done yet. Not this show, the other show that needs to get edited.
Just chillax. You're okay. More than 300,000 products. No, that's what I want. 3. Sometimes I have trouble with big numbers. Math is hard.
Words are hard.
Words and math combined are misery. What did you just say? Stop saying that.
I was letting you hear clearly what Roger said.
I know. I was just incredulous that he was saying that.
Think of all the stuff that's never
I have
made it
no
onto
head.
the camera that has
Where
come
is
out
my
of your
head?
lips. Think of the terrible, horrible things you've said, Veronica Belmont.
Well, I've never said anything. I always thought I had a big head. People always tell me I have a big head. It's so heavy, I can barely support it. Oh. Sassy Serafina in there is going to give you an ass whooping.
Wrap it up.
You have made my head enormous.